In his first race back since Pittsburgh Supercross, HEP Progressive Suzuki's Ken Roczen had a very up-and-down day, finishing 5th in Moto 1 at Unadilla and reaching as high as 6th in Moto 2 after a bad start, but unfortunately was seen pulling off the track early. After that, we'll get into Tom Vialle's future in the sport. He has confirmed that he has a deal for 2026. And finally, we're going to look at a couple injuries. Mikkel Mosiman had a crash before the skyshot and was seen carted off in the Alpine Stars medic mule with his face all wrapped up. It looked pretty bad. So we got clarification on that crash. And then after that, we got an update on factory Triumph rider Mikkel Haarup, who crashed on the uphill after skyshot in Moto 1 as well, ending his 2025 season. First, before we get into today's video, head to the mxnetwork.store and check out our magazine. Here's one of the latest ones we have on hand. Issues number 17, 18, 19, and 20 are arriving tomorrow. So all of you who pre-ordered them or a MagPass subscriber, you will be receiving those issues this week. Issues number 21 through 26 are currently in the editing process and will be available for pre-order soon as well. So go check out our magazine. Links in the description. Huge thanks to all of you who bought a copy. Your support means the world to us. One more thing before I get into today's video. We do have a sponsor. We normally don't, but we're proud to work with this company, Vent My Plate. Do you want your bike to look like your favorite pros? Well, now you can. Head to ventmyplate.com and get yourself a custom vented front number plate today. It's a super easy process. Once you place your order, you mail them your plate, and then they vent it and mail it back to you. So head to ventmyplate.com, use our code TMN for 10% off your order, links in the description. Ken Roczen returned to the AMA Pro Motocross Championship at the Unadilla National on Saturday, marking his season debut after injuries from Monster Energy Supercross that sidelined him for the final few rounds, and he obviously ended up having surgery. Following a summer of rehabilitation similar to the previous year, Roczen aimed to prepare for Super Motocross starting September 6th. He chose to race Unadilla to gauge his performance and race fitness, get some race time under his belt before heading to Super Motocross. In the first moto, it was pretty good. He secured a solid 5th place finish. The second moto wasn't as great, got a rough start. I think he was in 13th, 14th. He ended up climbing all the way up to 6th. I believe he was actually down to 8th before withdrawing on lap 12, resulting in a 5:38 score for 13th overall on his day. Again, his first race back since Pittsburgh Supercross back in April. So what happened? He looked great. They did show a couple quick clips on the broadcast of him pulling off the track, and he kind of looked like he was in pain. This left us all nervous and wondering if he was hurt again. Well, yesterday, Roczen took to socials to explain what happened. Roczen said, quote, "Unadilla is done and dusted. Overall, it was a pretty decent weekend. I think I put myself in a vulnerable position to race with having a little time on the bike. Nothing replaces actual seat time. However, I'm glad I went and blew myself out a little bit. It's the best thing for you and pushes your body to a different level almost immediately. My ankle held up good. I haven't really put my foot down much at home, so I was pumped to feel it out. I was pretty stoked on 5th place finish in the first moto. I thought I rode decent. I definitely didn't carry enough speed around the whole track with my line choices and stuff, but that is all something that comes back within a couple of races. The outdoor eyes got to come back. Second moto, I had about 15 minutes in me. I was pretty gassed at that point. The intensity racing is always at another level than at home. The track was hard packed and super fast, bumpy, and it all kind of beat me to crap. I was cramping so bad in my obliques and under my rib cage, I literally couldn't inhale anymore. It was like a knife in there. I have never actually had that happen to that extent. I obviously wanted to finish the race. I only had 3 laps to go, but it was such strange pain and not being able to inhale. I ended up going back to the rig and called it a day. Anyway, I'm glad I did it. Outdoors is tough, straightens you out real quick. Massive thank you to all the fans and the support. Hearing and seeing the stoked crowd out there is always something I appreciate. The team got everything handled as well, and it always seems to all be on very short notice. Time to do some more work and be better. So that's good news. At least he's not hurt. It did suck to see him running so well and then pulling out of the race early, but if he was in pain, it was probably the right move. Don't push yourself to the point where you're going to crash, make a bigger mistake or anything like that. Obviously, this was just a test race, kind of get some laps under his belt for Super Motocross, like I said. I think I can speak for all of us when I say no matter where he finished, we were all just glad to see Kenny back out there racing Pro Motocross this weekend. There's nothing like that. And of course, we did get to see plenty of great whips over the sky shot from Kenny. That's something he's known for, and he certainly didn't let us down in that aspect. On to our next story, Tom Vialle. After finishing 4th and 2nd for 3rd overall in the 250 class at Unadilla, we finally got an answer regarding Tom Vialle's future. It's all been kind of up in the air as of late. So the double MX2 world champion Tom Vialle revealed that everything is already decided in regards to his future. The current U.S.-based Red Bull KTM rider continuing to be heavily linked to a long-term MXGP deal with Honda HRC starting in 2026. Following months of speculation as to where the reigning 250 East champ will end up next year, the 24-year-old made it clear during Saturday's press conference after Unadilla that a decision has been finalized. Earlier this year, it was initially expected that the Frenchman would transition to the 450 class with his current team, Red Bull KTM, on a single-year extension through, obviously, Supercross, Motocross, and SMX next year. That was what we thought before the HRC option became apparent. After Unadilla, Tom was asked about this, and he said, everything is already decided, but obviously I can't talk about it right now. Vialle has experienced a largely successful stint here in America since arriving in 2023, having earned back-to-back East titles in 250 Supercross, as well as finishing second in 250 Pro Motocross behind Deegan last year, and then again in SMX Finals. In the press conference, Tom reflected on his 3 full seasons here in America, and obviously you can hear it in the way he's talking that he's planning on leaving. He said, quote, "We're getting right towards the end of my 250 career with only a couple more races left. My goal coming to the U.S. was to win a Supercross title once, and we were able to do it twice, so that wasn't expected. The only one that I'm pretty frustrated about is the outdoor title. I couldn't really put everything together these last 2 seasons, keeping on making some small mistakes. I was trying to push it a bit too hard, trying to follow Hayden a couple times. I was pushing too hard and then crashed. Didn't finish some motos. I finished second last year in the championship, but this year again, I tried a little too hard at the beginning and crashed. We're starting to get back to speed now, and hopefully we can fight for the SMX title." As you can hear in that quote, he's reflecting on his past few years with Red Bull KTM here in the U.S., so obviously by the way he's talking, his future being decided is leaning towards Honda HRC and MXGP. So if he is heading to Honda, Vialle's shock defection from KTM to Honda would mark his premier class debut in the World Championship, potentially alongside Jeffrey Hurlings as a part of a wild MXGP silly season. 5-time world champ, who's currently on Honda HRC, Tim Geiser, is rumored to be departing HRC, making room for Vialle for Yamaha in 2026. So yeah, silly season moves are just getting crazier for 2026. It's going to suck to see Tom head back to MXGP. We're going to miss him here in America, but I think it's for the best. The field is stacked here. He is obviously competitive here, but I feel like he has more potential going back where he started, the World Championship. It's going to be weird to see him on a Honda, that's for sure, but the rumor is he'll have a multi-year deal, more job security than the 1-year deal KTM offered him here. So that's good for him. I'm wishing him the best. On to our next story, Mikkel Haarup. A collarbone injury drew an untimely end to Mikkel Haarup's Unadilla National on Saturday with a mid-air collision on the uphill after the skyshot during the opening 250 class Moto, forcing an early retirement from the weekend for the Triumph rider. He qualified 6th during the morning sessions. He was actually hurt then as well. I went over to the Triumph rig to talk to Mikkel, and he wasn't there. His team informed me that during qualifying, he hurt his ankle, tweaked his ankle. They didn't give me much information on it. That's a separate issue from his collarbone, so he came into the race a little hurt. His participation in afternoon's racing began featuring him inside the top 10. You could see it on the broadcast. He was battling for 8th at one point, and then he fell back to 9th and 10th, I think he was, when he actually crashed. But that happened about 12 minutes left on the clock, and it ended his race weekend altogether and likely the rest of his season here in the United States. I couldn't find a clip of his crash, but he was seen on TV lying on the side of the track, so here's that clip. Haarup said in a press release after the race, quote, "My day ended quite quickly. I had a good qualification and a decent start in Moto 1, and I was just starting to flow when I connected with another rider in the air. That caused me to fall, and I suffered a collarbone injury. I'm getting checked up and put back together. Shout out to my team for the help and hard work. Appreciate all the positive energy." The extent of his collarbone injury is undisclosed at the moment, as well as a timeline for his return to racing. Haarup is currently sitting 6th in 250 motocross points. He had 7 top 10 finishes this season as well, so that's a pretty good 2025 season here in the United States, I'd say. It sucks to see his season end like this. I was super pumped to see Haarup here in America. We're wishing him the best, and hopefully he heals up quick, and yeah, can't wait to see him line up again soon. All right, final story of the day. Mikkel Mosiman, the Star Racing Yamaha rider, he did crash early in the first moto, and not much information was out there about it. He didn't post anything about it, but we finally got clarification on what happened. Unadilla was a rough day for Star Racing Yamaha's Mikkel Mosiman. The Californian qualified 10th overall and was buried deep in the field off the start for Moto 1. Then a big crash early in the first moto at the far corner of the track before the skyshot tabletop left the Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha rider with a cut above his eye. At that point, his day was over. I'm just happy that the injury isn't as bad as it looked. There wasn't any clips of his crash, but we did find a clip of him on the ground and pictures of him in the Alpine Stars medic mule. It looked pretty bad in the moment. Luckily, it was just a cut. Here's the clip of him after the crash, just before the sky shot. This was caught by Moto Fever Media. Here's that.
Get him, bro.
So yeah, it looked pretty bad. As you could see, he had blood dripping down his face on his neck brace there and everything. He was clearly in a lot of pain. Mosiman sits 10th in the 250 Pro Motocross Championship after a summer filled with some ups and downs. He had some great finishes, such as his podium at Redbud, and then a lot of big issues and big crashes as well. He sits 10th in the Super Motocross Championship playoff points as well. Yamaha gave us some clarification on his crash and injury after the race in a press release. Here's what they had to say. Mosiman had a promising start to the day, qualifying 10th, but unfortunately had a big crash on lap 2 of the first moto before the sky shot. The Californian withdrew from the race and received stitches for a cut above his eye. An update on his status will follow at a later date. Like I said, it could have been a lot worse and looked worse in person. I'm glad it was just a cut. There were a lot of people online complaining about how long it took for the medics to get there, which I understand, but I was there in person, and the medic mule was all the way on the other side of the track. So you got to remember, Skyshot is in one of the far corners of the Unadilla track, so it did take them some time to get there. But yeah, I'm glad he's okay. I'm glad it wasn't worse. Hopefully he gives us a full update soon. We're wishing Mosiman the best, and we can't wait to see him get back to racing soon. All right, that's it for today's video. What are your guys' thoughts on all of these stories? How do you feel about Kenny pulling off early in Moto 2? Do you think it was the right call? How about Vialle's move back to MXGP? Do you think it's actually going to happen? Let us know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. Don't forget, if you want to support our work, the best way to do that is to head to the mxnetwork.store. Go buy a copy of our magazine. Here's another example from earlier this year. Actually, this is the end of last year, beginning of this year. Cooper Webb Supercross de Paris, the King of Paris. Like I said, our latest issues will be arriving soon, and we'll ship them out as soon as we get them. While you're at it, if you want a custom vented front number plate, head to our friends at ventmyplate.com today. All right, guys, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.